Hello and welcome to Antique and Garden Showcase. Today we're going to talk about what it's like to be a beginning collector, how to find that particular piece to start your collection, and then the things you can do to learn about that item that you found, different resources you can use, and lots of other things. So stay tuned, we're going to have a great first episode. So when you begin collecting, some of the best advice that was given to me was to go to an antique shop and find something that you like, and then learn as much as you possibly can about that particular item. So back several years ago, I guess my mom and I were out shopping at a local antique store, and we ran across this piece. As you can see right here, I've got that right in front of me. By just looking at it, this piece looks like there's not a thing wrong with it, but actually the owner of the antique shop had dropped it and had broken the handle right in that particular spot, and it had been mended back together. This is a piece of Nippon porcelain, and she had it on her shelf, I think, for $4 or something like that. And I said, well, look at the artistry, look at the work that's in that piece. I said, it's worth $4 just to showcase or display. So we brought that piece home, and I said, well, why don't we make that our collection? You know, we like it, we've seen it, we know that it's all hand painted. Where can we go from there? Well, back in that time, back almost 30 years ago, the resources were mostly your libraries and your bookstores. You know, the internet didn't exist to the extent that it does today, and that was pretty much what I had to rely on. And still, some of the best information comes from some of the old books, and that's why I'm here in my office library today. Because if I turn around here, I've got some of the books that got me started with collecting, which the very first one was the Collector's Encyclopedia of Nippon Porcelain, and that was written by Joan Van Patten. And these have kind of been known as some of the best books to find for Nippon. And of course, there's a whole series of these books now. This was, well, I think this was the second edition. It doesn't say on the book. Most of them have the name of what edition it is on there. Yeah, so this one's third. So I think I keep them in order over here. This is the third edition. The fourth edition book over here. Fifth edition Nippon Porcelain, and as you can see, I've kind of got a lot of bookmarks in here for things that I have found over the years to add to my collection. And sixth edition for this particular one. Seventh series. And even one that I found that I didn't know existed just recently was the ABCs of collecting Nippon porcelain. So this one little $4 piece has taken me on quite a journey over the years. I learned a whole lot about Nippon. Nippon is a Japanese porcelain, and everything on it is hand painted. So you're not going to get the decals or some of the other things that you're going to find on some of the porcelains like Prussia or Germany. You know, an artist has actually gone through and painted the gold on, they've painted the flowers on, they've done the backgrounds and whatever else. And it's kind of an intricate porcelain compared to a lot of others that are out there. It's a collection that's taken me to a lot of different places, a lot of different sales. You can find stuff for Nippon just about everywhere. You have to keep a good eye out. There are reproductions out there that you need to be wary of if you want to collect that particular thing. But just because this is where I started doesn't mean that this is where you have to start. All it takes is a trip to an antique store, take a look around and say, hey, I like that particular piece, okay? If it's in your price range, something you want to buy, there are tons of resources out there to get started. And one of the best, you can just go online, do an online search on Etsy or eBay. You can find a lot of information on those. Some of the information's good, some of it's not so good, but that's why it is great to do more than one particular type of research when you're out looking around. Nippon porcelain, like I said, this past year I just became an International Nippon Collectors Club member. And I did that because the collection has gotten huge at this point. It went from this one piece now to about maybe 5 showcase cabinets full at this point. It's become quite an addiction. There are some other things that when we get into antique and garden showcase a little bit more that I'll talk about. My family had country grocery stores on both sides. My mom's parents and my dad's parents both ran country grocery stores. So a lot of country grocery store antique type things is one of the specialties that I have. And even behind me here, you can probably see there's a Tom's peanut case that has some old Tom's jars and things on there. We've collected stuff from those particular stores, even down to Anchor Hocking and Fire King, just a multitude of different things. So as you're out and about collecting, one of the things, just think about what you like. Look at what you like, what's in your price range to afford, and then just go and learn as much as you can about it. It's a great way to start collecting, and collecting brings so much joy because no matter where you go on vacation or you're just driving around to a different town, you're going to find a shop that has something that's going to match your particular collection that you're going to want to add to it. And that very first piece of Nippon has got a few other friends that have come along for the ride here too over the years. I've got a matching salt and pepper shaker there in that first pattern. A neat syrup pitcher with an underplate that I found at an auction. A little pin dish that's in the same pattern. And a rather large compote there that's in the same pattern. Now Nippon does not have pattern names, so it's important to remember that. So I don't really know what to call this particular thing, except that I call it the pattern of the first piece. So many pieces you can find matches of different things if you're out looking around. One other interesting thing about Nippon that I didn't mention before was that Nippon, basically the word Nippon stands for Japan. Nippon porcelain was produced in the late 1800s to the 19 teens, and Nippon is the predecessor, if you will, to Noritake. So this could be early or pre-Noritake pieces. So if you have a china set that has Noritake on it, you know that it's not as old as Nippon. And there is a transitional time where the back stamp on the piece, if you look, most all Nippon has a back stamp. The back stamp on the pieces in transition will say Noritake Nippon on them. So that's just a little bit about my collection, and this is some of the pieces that match the first piece. And just so you can see, this is one of the cabinets where I keep some of my favorite pieces. This is what the collection has grown to today. And it's been a combination of family members who have been on the lookout for me, friends who are on the lookout for me at different estate sales, my own eye going out to auctions and whatever. This particular cabinet has some of my favorite pieces of Nippon in it. I'm sorry for the shadows here. It's a little bright and the lights are a little bright on some pieces. And shadows in the background, I do apologize, but you can get an idea of where one $4 piece took me on quite a journey. To some really, really nice Nippon pieces over the years. And this is just, as I said, one of probably 4 or 5 cabinets that I've managed to put together at this particular time. Thank you for joining me today on this episode of Antique and Garden Showcase. We've got some neat things planned coming up in the near future. I hope to be talking about fall planting outside and some ideas I have for fall planters. I like to use the older cast iron and antique planters to make some really neat showcase pieces for the front of our house, and I've got some of those started now and in the works. So stay tuned to this channel. We're going to have some really interesting and neat things pertaining to antiques and gardening coming up really soon. I'm not going to be doing a daily video. I hope to at least start with a weekly video and maybe go to a bi-weekly video. I am a retail merchandiser most of the time, so it does take up quite a bit of my time. But I do want to get people interested in collecting and enjoying their spaces and showcasing their plants and their collectibles in the best way possible. So thank you for taking your time out of your day to watch our first episode on Antique and Garden Showcase. And I hope that you found something that you liked here today, and that you will actually subscribe to our channel so going forward we can bring you a whole lot more. And I look forward to seeing you again in the future. Have a good day. Bye.